It's Saturday evening. It's time to talk about the very best comic books of the week this week, and it's going to be a short conversation because it was very limited release, essentially by everybody. Almost all the indie publishers took the week off, but Drew and I are still here, enduring, trying to find good comic books for good people.
Very true. There are roughly 20 plus books that came out this week, maybe close to 30 total new ones, and I read everything at least twice. And all I'm going to say, Wes, is that if this week's new releases are a foreshadowing for what will be in 2025, it's going to be a very rough year. Because I struggle to find more than one or two I could recommend this week. And yeah, this is going to be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, like I said, it was almost limited release all the way around. One book that did come out, which we won't be recommending, is Absolute Superman #3. I think I've been very open and honest that I don't like edgelord, evil Superman tropes, not really my thing. I very much dislike Krypton. But the thing that really turns me off about the book this week, this Kal-El's parents are probably the worst people in the world when it comes to being parents. Kal's father gets taken in by the government because he was defying their orders and then basically trying to physically attack people, so they arrest him. His mom puts on a lava suit, grabs a lava gun, takes Kal, who's a child, drives him to the jail where his dad is, and then starts murdering everybody with Kal-El in tow. Talk about the worst parents ever. They're the anti-Ma and Pa Kent. No wonder this guy ended up being a fucking lunatic.
I mean, they are terrorist parents. They are terrorists at this point. But this did deliver one laugh out loud moment. You know, we see Kal's terrorist mom carrying that impractically large rifle in her hand, mowing down people in a jail to free her husband. It reminded me of that Wolverine comic with the mom carrying the rifle in one hand and her umbilical cord in the other. It's visually very stupid. This comic is very stupid, very boring, very lazy, and very heavy-handed.
Yeah, the first couple of issues, I found the Krypton stuff to be a major turnoff. And we get to the third issue, and it's all Krypton. And I freely admit that Krypton and its destruction, and obviously Kal-El landing on Earth, is an important part of the character's origin. But it's easily the least interesting, most boring part of it. We're getting so much about Krypton and nothing about what makes Superman interesting on this Earth. And you only have a few issues to really get people to buy into this concept, which I'm certainly not bought into. And at this point, I think most Superman fans aren't bought into. And I just feel like I keep getting my time wasted with stupid Krypton bullshit. And certainly Rafa Sandoval, a very good comic book artist, is having all of his time wasted illustrating a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, you know, that's the one thing I can compliment this book for is Rafael Sandoval. I mean, he is a terrific artist, and this is yet another example of a fantastic artist at the big two being absolutely wasted on a horrible, horrible story. And like you said, various writers have tried to make Krypton interesting in the past. Most recently with Robert Venditti. And before that, you had John Byrne and Grant Morrison. They all tried to make Krypton interesting, but it doesn't work. It's never worked. We don't care. That's not why we're here. We want to see Superman on Earth. That's what we're interested in. That character adapting to life on Earth. This is not good. Reading this series, specifically this issue, it brings to mind the brilliant film Monty Python and the Holy Grail, the extended cut specifically. When specific scenes go on too long with like lazy jokes, random characters will pop up saying, "Get on with it, get on with it." That's where I'm at with this series. We know Krypton exploded. Great, fantastic. Stop dragging it out and get on with it already. Before you know it, we're going to be 24 issues into this, and Krypton will not have exploded yet. And on top of that, yeah, we get it. The Science Council is repressive of free thoughts. Congrats, Jason Aaron. You took a Simpsons joke from 30 years ago and put it in your comic. Very original. Jason, just give it up. Move on. Live in the now. As Garth said in Wayne's World, this comic is not getting better anytime soon.
And at this point, I am getting very frustrated and going pretty sour on the Absolute line itself. I'm still enjoying Absolute Batman because it's a hoot and it's pretty stupid, but Wonder Woman's bad, Superman is worse, and I don't have much faith on Green Lantern and certainly Martian Manhunter. I'm hoping that Flash ends up being good, but at that point, that'll be sheer luck.
Yeah, it's just the celebration of low expectations. That's where we're at with the Absolute and the Ultimate lines. The celebration of low expectations. That's where we're at right now. We just want a decent book at this point. Not even a great one, just a decent one. And that is just, it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack at this point.
Now, normally we would talk about the indie comic books that we were going to recommend this week, but literally none of the indie publishers really put much out. There's a Saga, I think Spawn was out, but even Image didn't publish very many new comic books this week. So for the first time ever, I believe, on the history of the show, we don't have an indie comic book to recommend. We'll be moving straight on to Marvel. Deadpool Wolverine #1, Ben Percy writing, Josh Cassara on art. Ben Percy, I'm pretty hit or miss on him, but I think he does a pretty darn good job here setting up Deadpool Wolverine. And once again, it's, Deadpool doing something very, very out of character, Wolverine kind of following along, trying to figure out what's going on here. But once it starts getting violent and the weird stuff starts happening and you see Wolverine pay back Deadpool at a couple of spots, I thought it got pretty darn good and I had a lot of fun with it. If you want some splashy art with a lot of violence and a bunch of quips between Deadpool and Wolverine, I think you can do far worse, and I'm certainly recommending it.
Yeah, you could absolutely do far worse. So this one, in theory, I should have loved, but I just liked it. To me, there were several small mistakes made in this story, in character-wise, that didn't make sense to me. That kept it from being great, kept me from loving it. The big one being character motivations and choices made by certain characters, head-scratching decisions that really kind of insulted the intelligence of some of the characters. A lot of the jokes made were just very half-assed and unfunny. Like, if this felt like a first draft that went straight to art, because if there was an editor looking through this, a lot of these mistakes would have been corrected. However, there is a solid cliffhanger. I loved it. There is, like you said, there's some very damn good action in this, and it's well illustrated by Josh Cassara. He does a fantastic job. I hope he sticks around for the next few issues. It'd be nice to get an artist, be able to do more than one issue before he needs a break. Yeah, this is a soft recommend. Yeah, do check this out.
Thought that one was pretty darn fun, but it's not my pick of the week. I thought the best comic book this week was Cable, Love and Chrome #1, David Pepos writing, Mike Henderson on art. I thought this was pretty darn fun. I think it's a good introduction to Cable. If you've never read the character, I think that'll get you basically the basics of who the character is, his motivations, what he's capable of, all that stuff, and throwing him on this planet where there's a bunch of other people that have the techno-organic virus that are addicted to this drug that's being pushed on them that basically makes them become indentured servants, for this big corporation. And I don't know, Cable getting a little smitten with a lady that also likes to wield an axe and shoot some guns. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought I had a really good time with this.
This is one I was really looking forward to. David Pepos, we think we will agree, he has really stepped up his storytelling game with Space Ghost. So I was really expecting a big improvement with this issue. And for me, it was all right. Like you said, we get the introduction of another Marvel Queen Slay girl boss who's better than Cable. Whoop-de-doo.
Cable saves the day. What are you talking about? She was about to die.
No,
and he's the one that saved her.
I'm fairly certain she saves him.
Did you see the tank that was about to blow her and all of her resistance people away? He's the one that stopped it. He saved the day.
I'm fairly certain she saves him at some point too. I'm going to have to go back and reread this. I've read this 3 times. The character didn't impress me. The amount of times that she calls Cable cowboy in this comic, it really.
I kind of liked it because it's a Western setting.
And that's the other point. Mike Hawthorne, his art in this, he's a decent artist.
Mike Henderson.
Yeah. He was the wrong guy for this project. He's clearly trying to emulate a Chris Bacalo, but there's pages where it just looks like sloppy globs of ink and color. It's really hard to make out what's going on. And he can't really do action sequences well, especially big flashy ones. And this really, I feel like it really needed an artist who had like a 90s style to bring out that big action. It's all right. It didn't really, the big drawback was the art for me.
The art is admittedly uneven, but I thought that was pound for pound the best comic book that came out this week, but it was not a good week. It was not a banner week at all. There's one DC comic book to recommend, and I'm throwing this one to you, Drew, because this is all you. Justice League, the Atom Project, #1, John Ridley writing, Ryan Parrott also writing, Mike Perkins on art.
Yeah, so this was my favorite book of the week. In this issue, we're dealing with the fallout from absolute power and people having lost their powers, and Captain Atom in particular trying to get his powers back because he's lost them in the whole kerfuffle. And we open on with Captain Atom on the run. And then we get the flashbacks to the other Atoms, Ryan Choi and Ray Palmer, working together at the new Justice League headquarters, trying to resolve the fallout from the events and focusing on one child. And it's actually really good stuff. And you got the Atoms trying to transfer the powers from the child to Captain Atom, but it doesn't exactly work. However, something between now and then, Captain Atom being on the run, it happens to the point where he gets his powers back, and they're trying to hunt him down. So, I was surprised. This is a very good cliffhanger, and the most interesting part I talked beforehand is that John Ridley was listed as a writer on this. And you know what? I didn't detect any John Ridley isms in this comic at all. I mean, if anyone knows his style and his tropes, it's very racially charged and very hate-filled white devil propaganda, and none of that is here. So I'm going to give most of the credit to Ryan Parrott and the editors on this. And Mike Perkins, once again, kicks ass on the art, capturing the emotions and the action for the story. This is a solid recommend.
There you go. That'll do it. Only 3 comic books to recommend this week. Not exactly the way to kick off 2025, but it is what it is, and we've done our best to find the 3 comic books that you might enjoy this week. And certainly in 2025, we've got more interesting projects on the way, a lot of them coming from mainstream publishers and even the indie publishers. But we also got some really cool crowdfunded stuff coming from one Drew, but with a tag team with our good friend Aaron Sparrow. What the hell are you going to talk about today?
So yeah, what you're seeing here are teaser images to a new series I'm writing called Aftermath. I can't say what it's about yet, but that title should tell you something at least. We have a creative dream team here working on this. Beautiful pencils by Andre Lunatic, inks by the legendary Shelby Robertson, and colors by Spawn legend himself, Dan Kemp. And like I said, we have spell checker in chief Aaron Sparrow working on the book as well. The 8-page preview will be out at MegaCon next month with Spencer Voikin and Blaine Canada Publishing. Stay tuned for updates on Aftermath, guys. You don't want to miss out on this.
If you enjoyed this and you would like more Thinking Critical, if you go to the Patreon, we have stuff like this, but bigger. In the Hot or Not podcast with our good friend Jim, did a free preview here on the YouTube a few weeks back. If you haven't checked that out, there's a link in the video description to the Patreon. We got lots of other awesome podcasts with some of your favorite guests here on the YouTube channel. Hope to see you there very, very soon. And hopefully you would like to support Thinking Critical YouTube.